One shot which is a personal favourite of ours is the extreme close-up of the eye, which zooms out from Resident Evil. Here you can see a comparison of the same shot from Resident Evil Apocalypse to our film opening. One interesting shot was that from Donnie Darko on the left. As you can see, we try to reflect some of the same shots, cuts and framing sizes in our film opening. Whilst studying the lemon tree, we found out that the use of radio or TV broadcast was a popular way of defining a threat. Lastly, our logo was highly influenced by that of the Weinstein Company. Males have less camera time and all shots are simple, not quite defining the characters' roles as positive or negative. This represents males as unimportant, perhaps alienating males viewers from the beginning of the film. However, it can be said that whilst we do not represent males positively, we don't portray them negatively. The female is victimised, making the audience view her as a damsel in distress or simply a weak and vulnerable character, which portrays females quite negatively. The zombie horror themes are largely popular amongst American film studios from the conglomerates such as Universal, Warner Brothers and Fox Searchlight Pictures. However, it may be more plausible for our film if we approached an independent distributor. These include Echo Bridge Entertainment, After Dark Films and Anchor Bay Films, who all themselves have worked previously on films from the same genre. The one which stands out most are the Weinstein Companies and Lionsgate Films, who have recently worked on a popular Hunger Games. Our favoured choice for distributor is Weinstein Company, who distributed one of the same models, Diary of the Dead, whilst also distributing popular horrors such as Shelter, Halloween and The Mist. The demographics of our media product would include an age of 15, with the film distributed at a 15 BBFC rating due to the mild violence, blood and gore of the film, which would continue later on. We understand that this closes off a large audiences, however they would not understand the content maturely anyway. We try to keep the target audience open to both genders with the use of 2 protagonists. However, the focus was primarily on the female protagonist during the opening of the film, which makes it appear more suited to females as it reflects her importance and drowns out the male protagonist with a little screen time. The last thing our audience for this product would require is a good understanding and interest in the themes of the film. From the political themes of media corruption and exploitation of social medias to the horrifying and thrilling themes of zombies, violence, blood and gore that the film would eventually contain.
I found it very entertaining. It was effective in setting up what was going to happen in the rest of the narrative.
I thought it was very good, very creepy.
I found it effective using a female protagonist because the actor that you chose was particularly skilled at showing a more vulnerable side to the character.
It worked so much better because it gave it a sense of vulnerability and weakness that I think is really, really effective in this kind of setting.
I think the antithesis shown between the 2 characters would be effective, as you can see the 2 sides of this vulnerable nature and this pushy nature that we've seen from the male character.
It created much better contrast, so when watching it, both sexes could relate to each character.
Earlier I had my doubts about a rural setting, but thinking about the eeriness of it, so the rustling leaves and the darkness of it, I think was particularly effective.
Yeah, it was really good, very creepy and out in the open. It worked really well.
The themes you portrayed were very appropriate to it. Seeing this vulnerable character in this situation was exhilarating to watch, I think.
Yeah, it's very tense and scary.
On our top story, further violent attacks have been reported in the northeast of the country.
I think they added to the eeriness of it, creating this kind of dark theme or tone to the piece. However, there were, because of this rural setting, there was a few sections, like when she turned round in the scene, there was a buzzing noise that may have been slightly out of place with the rural setting.
No, they worked really well and they gave it so much more texture.
Opening a film of this genre with such a fast pace, like a running sequence, was really effective, as we didn't know the character yet, we weren't aware of what happened beforehand, we were really interested and the audience was sort of engaged.
It was really well paced, not too fast, not too slow, it was just the right pace for this genre.
With the camera, we originally learned how to perform a manual focus, which becomes useful when recording nature shots, as we could include more levels and really make the audience feel they are being immersed into the film's world. We also focused a lot more on framing and shots, making the shots a lot wider than they needed to be, with the intent of changing this in post-production. This included working with the tripod in ways we hadn't before, such as having the camera vertically to achieve shots such as the close-up on the female's face. The important sound that we had to record ourselves included ambient, Foley, dialogue and the voiceovers. This meant that we had to make use of a boom mic, which was not too difficult, although we had to be cautious of the disruption we could make to the audio when holding the mic. Another important aspect of filming is the music, of which we obtained from a non-copyrighted music website. It wasn't until we started editing till we discovered the impact this had on our sequence. This was also done with different sound effects until we found the sounds which suited the scene. Premiere was confusing at first, but as we progressed it became more familiar, making the fluidity and depth of our editing much neater and faster. Some more in-depth editing included changing audio levels, manipulating the colour through colour correction, contrast and brightness. The other most important correction we made during post-production was framing. We initially made the framing sizes too large so that we could achieve the exact framing we liked. Our Photoshop skills also improved whilst working on tiles and logos especially. We really like the auto-update features from the Adobe products, as it saves us a lot of time and effort, as there was no need for importing files over and over. Looking back at the preliminary task, there are a number of things that we had to be conscious and aware of in order to achieve the best continuity editing. The preliminary task allowed us to gain skills with different equipment, which created a good basis for starting our main task. We really focused on the 180-degree rule, as this was something that we struggled with during the preliminary task, and we knew we had to achieve in order for our film to look professional. After completing the preliminary task, we felt more confident with using the equipment, not only within production technologies such as camera and boom mic, but also post-production technologies such as Adobe Premiere and Photoshop.